In September 1891, the Scottish borders town of Galashiels suffered one of the worst floods in its history. At around 1 o'clock in the morning of Sunday 19th September, it began to rain, but what was unusual was that there was no let-up for 40 hours. At around 10 o'clock that Sunday night, the wind picked up and a gale raged for the next 12 hours before abating. At Galashiels on the Monday morning, the town was flooded, and the levels continued to rise until around 1 o'clock that afternoon, when it reached its highest level. There had been a flood in March 1881, but this time the water was a full 2 feet higher than that flood. The railway station was under around 4 feet of water, but that was due to the narrowing of the passage there. The water filled the bridge up to the abutments and swelled until the archway was full, and even then the water hadn't peaked. Soon the bridge was completely submerged. People were milling about watching the spectacle, and the local authorities were fearful of them being swept away in the torrent. The magistrates decided to stop all access to the bridge. Before that, the Cumley Bank Bridge and the Buckholm Mill Bridge had been swept away. Seeing what was happening, the Abbots Mill Bridge was saved by tying it strongly with ropes at one end and fixed it firmly, while the other end was cut away. When the floods rose, the bridge swung round and was floated where it was. At around 11 o'clock, the water flooded King Street, and the torrent ran down Island Street, High Street and Channel Street, flooding anywhere close to these. In some parts of the High Street, the water was described as being mid-leg deep, and shopkeepers, businesses and householders rushed to barricade their doors from the rising water. The authorities built an embankment at the head of Island Street to divert the water to Hunter's Bridge. Wilderhaw and King Street were left to flood, as the water was already too deep for anything to be done. Corn and turnips were seen floating down the streets. Close to the skin works called, the waters were rushing so violently that they swept away the back wall of the Abbotsford steam laundry. Just minutes before, the horses of the proprietor of the laundry were moved. The employees of the skin works, fearing damage to other buildings, managed to build a barrier out of some trees, which helped slow the current enough. A small cottage on the north side of the bleaching green was under 4 feet of water, but thanks to the barricading, it survived the flood. All the low-lying land was flooded, with only the tops of hedgerows being seen and the tips of fences in places. Where the water was shallower, the tops of standing cornstooks could be seen, but there were long stretches of unbroken water where the grain had been either carried down by the flood or was wholly submerged. In other places, only the tops of the railway embankments were seen, with what could only be described as lochs on either side of them. At Buckholm Mill, the underflat of the weaving sheds were flooded, and water surrounded them. Erosion on the north bank of the river swept away land, and at Messrs. Gray, Ballantyne and Company, dyers, the dye house was completely swept away. Plumtree Hall Bridge was impassable, and the gardens in King Street on the riverside were completely destroyed. At Wilderhaw, access to homes was impossible for some, due to their only access being outside stairs, which were flooded. In one case, a man placed a ladder at an upper window to help remove a sick child with scarlet fever, but the child later died. The wool yard in Island Street was badly flooded, and the stables recorded a water level of 18 inches. At Thompson's sawmill, the engine and boiler were swept away, and a new concrete abutment for a new bridge being built in Gala was destroyed. At the slaughterhouses, they were under several feet of water, and one man had difficulty in making his way to safety. At around 4 o'clock that afternoon, Robert Somerville, a pressman at the Netherdale Mill, along with a few others, were trying to fish out some trees and other debris from the water at the railway bridge on the Selkirk line. He was wading in wearing fishing trousers, but was swept off his feet in the torrent. Joseph Graham of Dale Street waded in and tried to get a hold of him, but he failed. 26-year-old Somerville, who was married with a child, disappeared shortly afterwards. His body was found by a girl who saw his hand protruding from sand on the Wednesday near Newstead, near Melrose. He was pulled out and initially taken to Melrose, where it was discovered his watch had stopped at 4:07. As the waters began to subside, farm servants could be seen catching turnips as they floated by. It took more than a week for the rail line to reopen, and all communication with the town was down for a number of days. On Friday, 25th September, another bridge collapsed on the Waverley line, 2 miles north of Gala, opposite Wynne. It was a single iron girder bridge without piers to the north of Buckholm Tunnel, resting on an abutment that had been damaged in the storm, and the foundations had been damaged, making it eventually give way. That September storm was one of the worst to hit the country, with damage stretching from the Central Highlands and Aberdeenshire right down the east coast, including Edinburgh and much of the Scottish borders. Several people lost their lives due to the flooding. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.